Did you know that you have a lot to give? Think about it. What is it that you have more than everybody else? My name is Aminata Coote, author of the book How to Find Your Gratitude Attitude and founder of the Hebrews12endurance.com website. And today I want to talk to you under the topic, Be Grateful for the Bounty. Today's reading comes to us from 1 Samuel 25, reading verses 2 to 11. Reading from the New King James Version. Now there was a man in Maon whose business was in Carmel, and the man was very rich. He had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats, and he was shearing his sheep in Carmel. The name of the man was Nabal, and the name of his wife Abigail, and she was a woman of good understanding and beautiful in appearance. But the man was harsh and evil in his doings. He was of the house of Caleb. When David heard in the wilderness that Nabal was shearing his sheep, David sent 10 young men, and David said to the young men, Go up to Carmel, go to Nabal, and greet him in my name. And thus you shall say to him who lives in prosperity, Peace be to you, peace to your house, and peace to all that you have. Now I have heard that you have shearers. Your shepherds were with us, and we did not hurt them, nor was there anything missing from them all the while they were in Carmel. Ask your young men, and they will tell you. Therefore, let my young men find favor in your eyes, for we come on a feast day. Please give whatever comes to your hand to your servants and to your son David. So when David's young men came, they spoke to Nabal according to all these words in the name of David, and waited. Then Nabal answered David's servant and said, Who is David, and who is the son of Jesse? There are many servants nowadays who break away, each one from his master. Shall I then take my bread and my water and my meat that I have killed for my shearers, and give it to men when I do not know where they are from? The first thing that stands out for me is the description of the two persons. The woman was of good understanding and beautiful in appearance, but the man was harsh and evil in his doings. While we don't know where Abigail came from, we know that Nabal was a descendant of Caleb. Why is it important, you may ask? In Numbers chapter 13, there's a very interesting story about the 12 spies who were being sent into the promised land to spy out the land. They were sent to find out if it was a good place to live, if the people were, if there were people that they could overthrow. They were sent to find out if there was food there. And because basically what they were doing, they were wanting to prove the promises of God. Was it really a land of milk and honey? Was it really a great place to live? 10 persons came back and they gave a very negative report. But there were 2 men, Caleb and Joshua. These 2 men who said, no, you know what? Let us go and capture this land because God has given us these people. And if God is fighting for us, then we can defeat them. It doesn't matter how big they are. Fast forward 40 odd years, and there's Caleb telling Joshua that, look, I know that, we should have been in this land ages ago. Because I remember that when we came here into this land, that we told the people that we could have taken it and they were afraid. So tell you what, you see that mountain with all those giants on it? Give it to me. Even though I'm 83 years old, I'm not scared. And this is the heritage that Nabal had. So one would think that he would be a man of integrity, but he wasn't. Instead we see a man who is puffed up with pride. Even though his words say that I don't know who this David is, the information that he provides tells you otherwise, because at no point does it tell you who David is. Yet Nabal was able to say, who is David? Who is this son of Jesse? Who is this man who is a servant? You see, he knows all about David's history. He knows all about David's history, and he's not afraid to use David's history against him. Just imagine, David was here, he was on the run because his boss and king was about to kill him. He had to leave his wife behind, he had to leave his family behind, he had to leave everything that he knew, all that he was used to, he had to pick up and leave it. And here was this man just boasting because he was sitting there in the midst of his luxury. Another key point to note was that feast days were times of celebration. There would have been more than enough food for Nabal to just take up some of this food and give it to David, especially since David had already been taking care of his men. Technically, he owed him. And technically he owed him, but you realize that when David came to him, David never came to him to say, oh look, because I protected your young men, you owe me. He didn't come to him like that. He sent his men in humility. He said, look, we were here, and yeah, we had the opportunity to hurt them, but we didn't. And we know that you have food, so really all we're asking for is just a little bit of food to eat. It wasn't a case where David was poaching off Nabal, because let's face it, he only went to him this one time. All the other days of the year, he found food for his own men. How did they do it? The Bible doesn't say, but it must have been kind of tricky, because here they are basically in the wild, trying to fend for themselves. They'd have to be doing a lot of hunting in order to provide food for all the people who were with David at that time. On one hand, you have David, a man who has nothing. And on the other, you have Nabal, a man who has more than enough. How do we know it's more than enough? Because a few verses down, when Abigail, his wife, hears about it, she's able to procure food in an instant, enough food to feed all these men. Let's get down to verse 18 so we can find out what Abigail actually provided. Then Abigail made haste and took 200 loaves of bread, 2 skins of wine, 5 sheep already dressed, 5 seahs of roasted grain, 100 clusters of raisins, 200 cakes of fig, and loaded them on donkeys. It didn't take Abigail any length of time to procure the food, so it means that Nabal also had the same opportunity. Here's a lesson for us today. Don't gloat when you have a surplus of something. Don't be boastful or brag because you have something and another person doesn't. Instead, think of it as an opportunity to be a blessing to someone else. Use the surplus that you have to bless another person. Think of it as an opportunity to give God thanks, because guess what? You could just as easily have been the person who had nothing. And that is an opportunity to be grateful. That's an opportunity to find your gratitude attitude and dust it off. Today's devotional is inspired by day 6 of my book, How to Find Your Gratitude Attitude, which is now available in digital and print format on Amazon.com. It's also available as an ebook on BarnesandNoble.com, Kobo, and the iTunes Store. I'll put the links in the description box below. So tell me, when you have a surplus of something, what do you do with it? Share them with me in the comments below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And while you're at it, would you subscribe to my channel and hit the bell so that you can know whenever I post a new video. Until next time.